Of business this evening is a members' business debate on motion 16869 in the name of Jackie Dunbar on Global Intergenerational Week 2025. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I'd invite members wishing to participate to press the request to speak buttons now, and I call on Jackie Dunbar to open the debate. Around 7 minutes. Ms Dunbar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and my apologies for confusing you by sitting in a different seat tonight. And I'd also like to thank all of my colleagues across the Chamber who signed my motion on Global Intergenerational Week 2025, and thank in advance those members taking part in this evening's debate. And I'd also like to welcome Alison and Shatisha from the Generations Working Together team who are in the gallery this evening. The theme of this year's Global Intergenerational Week is intergenerational learning. This isn't the first debate that I have led on intergenerational working, and it led to someone asking me what's my personal experience that makes me care about this so much. What's my story? And to be honest, Presiding Officer, I don't really have any particular personal experiences that led me to this. Just a general belief that it's important for different generations to engage and learn from one another. But as for stories, there have been so many stories. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, before Facebook and Twitter and Bebo and MySpace, who remembers them, most communication was spoken rather than written. Some of it was practical, like skills and language, and it's how Doric has made its way down the generations. And other parts of it were myths and legends, as well as some just good old-fashioned gossip. But it's how so much of our history is passed down to us. Those of us from more humble beginnings know that they didn't write history books about farmhands and factory workers. Their stories and legacies were passed down and kept alive by word of mouth. It's what makes our uncles, great-uncles, or even great-great-uncles, depending on how old you are, a person, rather than an inscription on the local war memorial for someone we have never met. It's how so many of our folk songs, our recipes, our traditional skills and the stories that are unique to our families and communities have made their way down to us today. I mentioned social media earlier, and I'm going to go back to that. Social media and the internet in general has changed how we share information, for better and for worse. It's led to there being an online Doric dictionary, which is for the better, and it's supported people to share their lives with the world in a way that they never could before. And it's put some of our culture in front of larger audiences that we could never have possibly imagined. But in amongst that, with a world's worth of videos, blogs and web pages at our fingertips, we've moved into a situation where the majority of the content people see online has been created in the last 24 hours, and that doesn't bode well for stories that have been passed down the generations. But we've also seen a shift in how folk engage with one another. Our communities used to be mostly based on where we lived. We knew our neighbours, their neighbours, their neighbours' neighbours. But nowadays, people can find friends that share their same interests on the other side of the planet. And they can find folk with common interests to the point where it forms a new kind of community. But those much wider nets mean that more folk, especially older folk, can slip through them, and we are seeing increased isolation as a result. So I want to use today's debate to talk about why there's still a case for intergenerational learning and for different generations to learn from one another. It doesn't just teach new information and skills, it provides opportunities to challenge stereotypes and misconceptions, with ageism a particular problem against both young and old. And on the theme of intergenerational learning, Generations Working Together have provided us with a wonderful briefing. And as the MSP for Aberdeen Donside, I think the very best bit is where they talk about Aberdeen. In particular, they mention the intergenerational choir run by Ace Voices in Aberdeen. That project has been credited with reconnecting communities, with providing learning and leadership opportunities, with helping to reduce isolation and loneliness, and with reducing ageism. It's a fantastic initiative, and it's just one of numerous across Scotland. There is also the intergenerational shared site that's a nursery inside a care home in Maithelhaven in Fife. And there's the Junior Aphelia in Shetland. There's older adults mentoring young folk in the Citadel Youth Centre in Leith. And there's the great work of Farside Women and Girls Group in East Lothian. I expect to see more of that in future, and I say expect because of the work that generations working together have done. They have developed lesson plans and resources for primary schools to use to prepare children for intergenerational learning, and I'm sure they'll give you a copy, as I got one from them earlier on, if anybody's wanting one. They've worked with Education Scotland, and they've produced 2 new good practice guidance handbooks for intergenerational work. So let me remind the Chamber what generations working together are now asking for, so that they can build on what they've already done. They are urging everyone to recognise the importance of 3 things. 1. Intergenerational training to enable staff and volunteers to start from a place of good practice. 2. Funding for intergenerational projects. If anyone is thinking of funding intergenerational projects, I promise you it is money well spent. I know firsthand from being a member of the ABZ Propeller Fund, a fund funded by Aberdeen Airport, who gives out money to charities and groups within the North East of Scotland, the fantastic difference it can make. In my own area, the fund allocated money to the Bridge of Dawn Men's Shed for a polytunnel that they use with Forehill Primary School, so that the not-so-young teaching the young on how to grow things is just one fantastic example of this. And 3, they are asking for at least 2 members of staff or volunteers in each project or school to be trained and supported long-term to build their knowledge and confidence around the field of intergenerational practice. Let me finish by urging everyone to do something too. Go and have a conversation with someone different, from a different generation from you. Learn something, teach something, like a new phrase, or if you're in Aberdeen, teach the younger generation the Doric. You'll be glad you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Dunbar. We now move to the open debate. I call first Alexander Stewart, to be followed by Emma Harper in 4 minutes. Mr Stewart.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to take the opportunity to participate this evening, and I thank Jackie Dunbar for bringing the debate to the Chamber. I have previously spoken and contributed to a similar debate when I was my party's Shadow Minister for Older People, and generational working together is and continues to be a major issue. It's encouraging to hear that from the humble beginnings, this event has now grown to international level in just a few years. International issues make such a difference to the generations. This campaign is a good chance to celebrate local opportunities where different age groups can come together and form friendships, work together, learn and progress. Deputy Presiding Officer, as we are all aware, I am a co-convener of the Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on Malawi, and I was delighted to learn recently that the Malawi Network for Older Persons Organisations has taken on the role as Malawi's country's lead for the Global Intergenerational Week. As a consortium of civil society organisations working on ageing issues for that country, it has dedicated individuals to support the rights of older people across the country. This debate's motion highlights from Ms Dunbar the theme of intergenerational learning. It aims to highlight the findings of the World Health Organization on Global Report on Ageism, and it outlines some of the negative impacts that ageism has had and how education is a key strategy to addressing some of this and the vital progress that has and focuses on. Whilst it is very much the case that we focus the government on where we're dealing with ageism and how older people are managed, it's vitally important that we think about how that happens on an international and intergenerational stage. It's also important that we look at what the Scottish Government has done in the past, and we already know that there were concerns when it comes to isolation and loneliness and how that was being tackled, and there has been some progress, but we still have a long way to go to make the necessary changes that are required. And if nothing else, it certainly gives us the context as to where we are when it comes to an ageing population. Age Scotland's big survey of people over 50 in Scotland, for example, continues to highlight many of the areas that need to be addressed so that we can highlight. And recently, the BBC highlighted a study from the Scottish Fiscal Commission which found that It requires individuals' health and age become much more apparent as they go into their years and how that should be looked at. It's significant challenges we face as a country when it comes to managing and how individuals from different generations are supported. And when it comes to the financing of all of that, we are well aware that over the next 20 years, the spending that's required could have major impacts as to what can and will be achieved. So the study talks about several indicators for the decline in the Scottish population's health. And we've already talked about the past where health and inequality and isolation and loneliness are big issues. And it has been very much the case that, Scotland's stagnated since 2012 when it comes to the general decline in healthy expectations and life expectancy we've also heard about. And the rise in mental health issues has occurred. And we're sadly all aware of that, Presiding Officer. But it's important that we look at the positives that can be achieved. Significant health inequalities also indicate where we are when it comes to intergenerational and supporting older people to feel part of that process. Echoing the Fiscal Commission Chairman when he talked about Scotland faces real challenges in its terms of fiscal sustainability when it comes to an ageing and a healthy and unhealthy population. So in conclusion, Presiding Officer, intergenerational issues must be given a higher priority, and I'm anxious to hear what the Minister says in her summing up when she talks about where we are. But there is a real opportunity that we can work together, we can train together, we can have projects together, because they all make a difference when it comes to intergenerational. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. I now call Emma Harper to be followed by Paul Sweeney around 4 minutes. Ms Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I congratulate my Gid Freen, and if I use a Doric word, Gid Quine, Jackie Dunbar for securing this debate on Global Intergenerational Week, which runs from 24th to the 30th of April this year. This is the second time that Ms Dunbar has led the debate, and she has aptly covered many important aspects of intergenerational working and the wider global movement, which is now in its 6th year. Presiding Officer, what intergenerational means has changed hugely over our lifetimes. Indeed, you might say across successive generations. The days of 3 or 4 generations of a single family living on the same street or in the same district, engaging and learning from each other, are almost entirely at an end. Mobility, and social and physical, has gradually eroded that way of life, and we need to re-engage to assist generations to work together. So the point of generations working together is to leverage diverse experiences and perspectives of each generation, fostering a richer learning and growth environment for everyone involved. I remember a previous members' debate that I was in chamber for as a relatively new MSP. It was an intergenerational debate led by my colleague Christine Graham, MSP, who is sitting across the aisle from me here this evening. It inspired me. Christine Graham inspired me. She obviously captured my interest, as one of my first actions that I pursued following Ms Graham's debate was to find out what intergenerational engagement work has taken place in Dumfries and Galloway as part of my South Scotland region. There is indeed intergenerational work taking place in Dumfries and Galloway. Kerry Little from Mallory Daycare in Dumfries had taken the preschool children to the Cumberland Older Persons Day Centre for intergenerational engagement. Intergenerational working, it may sound quite lofty and a bit of a mouthful, but actually what has taken place at Cumberland Day Centre was quite simple to achieve. The wee ones were guided and interacted with. They interacted with the older adults to play and interact, and there was much mirth and joy. The homepage of Generations Working Together website states, "Together, let's celebrate the power of connection. Relationships between older and younger people, not just nice, but essential." Generations Working Together website is full of lots of information about events, workshops and activities for people to use, and there is also online training. And there is a Global Intergenerational Week promo video. It's worth watching as it outlines the benefits, including mentoring and the positive confidence building that is achieved by participants, as well as reducing isolation and loneliness. I recognise that this year's theme is intergenerational learning and aims to highlight the findings of the World Health Organisation's Global Report on Ageism. The report outlines the negative impact of ageism on society and recommends education as a key strategy to address it. And again, Jackie Dunbar has highlighted this well. I have also got my intergenerational guide right here, Presiding Officer, so I will make sure that I pay attention to that as I take it out here and read it later. Last September, I presented the welcome address to the intergenerational workshop at the Carer Centre in Dumfries. There were many attendees from the third sector organisations also, and I'm pleased to inform Chamber about some of the excellent work going on in D&G. Just this morning, I read that children at the Johnston Nursery in Kirkcudbright participated in an intergenerational event. The nursery is collaborating with Meeting Centre Scotland to create an intergenerational and dementia-friendly meeting space within the nursery. And I read that the children took the lead for a brilliantly relevant bridge building challenge, building a bridge strong enough for a toy car to cross. It was reported as an enjoyable and inclusive activity that fostered teamwork. And the Galloway Action Team charity in Stranraer are also delivering intergenerational work, responding to local people's needs and building the skills of the volunteers supporting them to continue to integrate with locals. So to conclude, Presiding Officer, today's debate is a good way to raise awareness of what generations working together means, conveying the positives at 6 years on from when we have started, and value the importance of intergenerational working. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Harper. I now call Paul Sweeney to be followed by Christine Graham. Around 4 minutes. Mr Sweeney.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and may I also add my thanks and appreciation to Ms Dunbar, the member for Aberdeen Donside, for securing this motion for members' business this evening. And I think it's commendable that this is the second year in a row that she has brought this motion for debate, because I think it is a critical issue for our society. So often the discourse in our country can focus on intergenerational inequality and focus on unfairness, but I think actually focusing more on the opportunities that intergenerational working can bring is important, because there's so much amazing stuff going on in this country, and I think the member alluded to a lot of that in her opening speech, and it provoked a lot of thinking in my own area when she was talking as well. I remember going to an event in Springburn Academy before I became a member of the Scottish Parliament, when a local, it was basically the standard grades, still standard grades or intermediate level pupils were doing an oral history project by going out and speaking to older members of the community about Springburn and their memories of the area, and the immense richness of the history they were recording by speaking to older members of the community. It really opened their eyes to the immense richness of the identity they had and the pride they had in their community, something they hadn't previously discovered, and I think that was something really special to witness. And at that event, when they were presenting their findings of their oral history project, speaking and interviewing members of the older members of the community, a proverb was referenced, which was, "When an old person dies, a library is burned." And I thought that was a really poetic way of capturing the point of how much we may miss as a society, particularly when we perhaps view with derision or with a lack of respect of our older people and the immense experiences they bring and the immense wisdom they can bring. And I thought it was remarkable to see the awareness of young people at school reflecting on that. And it's always been a turn of phrase that's stuck with me. How much we forget, particularly in working class communities, the immense experience that's not often recorded or appreciated. And the way in which this campaign has focused on promoting that grassroots network is really important, and I commend its work and hope it continues to grow from year to year. Certainly has grown from being a relatively local project to a global phenomenon, and that's to be celebrated. I think also recently of attending a model railway exhibition in Glasgow and just seeing, not just enjoying the model railway exhibits, which are impressive of course, but just recognising actually all these community model railway clubs, and it was young people and old people working together building these amazing scenes of different scenarios across Scotland, historical, contemporary, but just seeing the shared enthusiasm and joy of coming together and celebrating something like that together. It's just another example of the richness in our country that can often be overlooked or dismissed, but it's men's sheds, community gardening projects. it's not something is prescribed from central government or from some central office. It's just something that's organically happening in our communities, and it's very special and something we ought to celebrate. So often it's seen as a nice to have or a easy to trim away on a government budget line from year to year, but actually it is so valuable and so rich and is so essential for our public health. We so often talk about the problems of mental health, mental well-being, isolation, loneliness, and how difficult it might be for a GP to find the remedy for that. It's not always about prescribing something. It's built in the fabric of our communities. Often that mental ill health, that mental problem might be a symptom of a disconnect within our own community, something more subtle, something harder to diagnose. And that's where the idea of social prescribing perhaps comes in, but it's about building that richness in our community, whether it's an introduction to a sports club, or it's an introduction to maybe a group like the Scouts or the Boys Brigade or the Cadets, or whether it's a model railway club. These are the essence, these are the basis in which we can build wellness, build prosperity and build happiness, which is an under-regarded and underappreciated factor in public policy, I think, in our society. So if we can try and establish the intangible value of these organisations and the work they do and try and price it into government policy, I think we'll be well on the way to building a better network and a better system for intergenerational working across our country. Thank you again for bringing the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Sweeney. We come to the final speaker in the open debate, Christine Graham. Again, around 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. I congratulate Jackie Dunbar too on securing this debate. Global Intergenerational Week is aimed at inspiring individuals, groups, organisations and governments to connect people of all ages, but especially younger and older generations, to share good practice and take opportunities to come together, enjoy one another's company, make friendships crossing age divides. And that can be done through physical activities, chatting, gardening, baking, though I'm quite hopeless at baking. Some of this already happens quite naturally, of course, through grandparenting and interactions with elderly relatives and neighbours. It can be about cuddling into Granny or Grandad, telling a story from a book, or simply sharing memories from the past, embellished, of course, at least in my case, for dramatic or romantic effect, or even both. There are special moments, and it gives parents a break. Walking hand in hand with the young one, chattering away, and Granny out and about rather than sofa-bound, is the stuff of abiding memories. A benefit of being Granny Scotland, my sobriquet, is going to films I really want to see, but I need an alibi. And that alibi is the granddaughter at my side, frozen on the big screen with compulsory burgers, or simply lounging in the sand at Portobello Beach while my granddaughter paddled and keep checking to see if I was watching with approval. Or eating a shared humongous banana split, and then my face being painted as a cat on New Year's Day, and returning home forgetting I was still sporting the cat face, wondering while the world was smiling at me as I passed by. There are cultures where the elderly are respected just by being elderly, and even revered. For example, in China. But indeed, my own late Granny, with her you did as you were told. It was her house. No mugs in her kitchen, but a china cup and saucer, doilies, antimacassars, and a three-tiered cake and sandwich stand. Nothing less from this former lady's maid, daughter of a shepherd who left school at 14. It was another world, but as clear in my memory as yesterday. Then in a care setting, young ones can come in to share simple play and perhaps perform a song or two, and I've seen that at work in schools. It can also involve a lesson in social history. What was it like to grow up post-war with the remnants of rationing? Or in the swinging 60s, when miniskirts were dangerously all the fashion and the young rebelled against the older generation? By the way, I come free of charge. It can involve a young person showing someone older like me how to use TikTok, or the mysteries, for some even, of the internet. It can be using emojis in the right place, at the right time, for the right reason. Remember how David Cameron got caught on the misuse of LOL. It should remind the younger generation that we, the older people, have a value and should be valued. That we have had and still are having a life. It's important to understand and tolerate each other too. While age discrimination against the older generation is alive and well, and I can testify to that as an octogenarian, but so is age discrimination against the young. The untrammelled energy of youth can be so annoying, but so too can the slower pace of the elderly, irritating those who are young when life for them is in a hurry. Tolerance and understanding is a very good prescription. That is why one-to-one encounters, starting with that, personal encounters between the younger and the older generation are so important, shattering misperceptions and, more than that, enhancing respect and understanding of both the old and the young. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Graham. I think you may be underpricing yourself, but anyway, I call on CoCab Stewart to respond to the debate. Minister, around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, fellow members. I'm delighted to be closing this debate on Global Intergenerational Week 2025. I thank my colleague Jackie Dunbar for bringing forward the motion and, of course, my fellow MSPs for attending and taking part. It's so important that we celebrate this global event organised by Generations Working Together, the nationally recognised Centre of Excellence, supporting the development of intergenerational week work across Scotland. The 7 themes explored as part of this year's campaign are key to my work as Minister for Equalities and align with the mission and the values of the Scottish Government. This includes themes such as challenging ageism and social isolation and loneliness, which are both under my portfolio. The Scottish Government recognises the value in bringing generations together to encourage greater understanding and respect between generations and building more cohesive, fairer communities in Scotland. And that is why we work with a wide range of partners across the age equality spectrum, including Generations Working Together, who sit on both our Older People's Strategic Action Forum and our Social Isolation and Loneliness Advisory Group. I've seen in practice the benefits to both older and younger generations of coming together to share skills and learn from one another. In February this year, I had the pleasure of visiting the Men's Shed in Inverclyde, a volunteer-run grassroots organisation that provides community spaces for people to get involved and grow. In their workshop, I saw multiple generations and cultures working together and building friendships. And I would like to just refer to the contributions made by my colleagues. Jackie Dunbar, I was struck by her general belief that generations can learn from each other and celebrating that oral history, that tradition of oral history, which passes on to generations our folklores and storytelling and, of course, language, all languages, including Doric, which I know that Jackie Dunbar has a great passion for. Alexander Stewart, I'd like to thank him for recognising the progress that we have made. And I accept that we have challenges going forward, but I can assure him of my absolute commitment that we will continue to progress this work further. Emma Harper, like so many of us in this chamber who are inspired by Christine Graham, highlighted the value of education as a way to address ageism. And I remember myself, when I was a teacher not that long ago, I took great pleasure in making sure that when I was teaching my primary 7s in particular, and we had certain topics about people and place, and we reached out to local older people who came into school, and we organised tea parties where children were able to develop their skills in social and interpersonal skills and how to take turns and to ask questions and to listen. So everyone benefited from that. Paul Sweeney acknowledged the opportunities presented through intergenerational work and very poignantly, I must say, emphasised the vast knowledge that is held by our older people, and we are grateful to them for that. Christine Graham highlighted the role of grandparents, and I'm sure in the Chamber we are all very grateful for her sharing the joyful tales of the activities that she has shared, including face painting, and I'm sure that she looked perfect. So, on that note, I'll take us back to what the Scottish Government is clear on, and that is our support for intergenerational working, for older people in particular, and the impact that it has on loneliness. This is evident through our Social Isolation and Loneliness Fund, which supports 53 organisations tackling social isolation and loneliness, and we will invest £3.8 million over 3 years into that work. Social isolation and loneliness is indeed, as Alexander Stewart pointed out, a public health issue which can affect anyone at any stage of life, and as such, many of the projects funded take a strong intergenerational approach, supporting older and younger people to connect through social lunches, befriending, community meals or activities. And, of course, we are proud to have supported Men's Sheds since their inception in Scotland over a decade ago, and we have provided over £750,000 to enable that movement to grow and flourish. Men's Sheds are a positive role model for fostering connections between generations of men to increase well-being, reduce stigma and make a difference to their local communities. We're also delighted to be funding the Befriending Network, who provide vital support and advice to befriending organisations across the UK and are a partner of our Social Isolation and Loneliness Advisory Group. We recognise that many of these organisations rely on the passion of volunteers. We know that intergenerational volunteering brings many benefits, not just reducing loneliness and isolation, but making new friends, having fun and helping others. Building a deeper understanding of each other through volunteering can help all generations to feel valued, create a greater sense of belonging and help to improve everybody's mental health and build their confidence. And that's why the Scottish Government have published the Volunteering Action Plan to increase participation and reduce barriers to volunteering for all. So, in closing, Presiding Officer, let me say again my thanks to Ms Dunbar for raising this debate and to Generations Working Together for their tireless work in raising the profile of intergenerational work across the globe. I appreciate that there have been many challenges that we have faced that have impacted on intergenerational connections, such as COVID-19 and the ongoing cost of living crisis. Yet, with the ongoing support of Generations Working Together as key partners, I know that we can strive to make a positive difference to all generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting of Parliament.